Okay, here we are. Number 3.
Episode number 3. I can't believe we made it here.
I can. You know why? Because I think we're pretty interesting. I would want to listen to us all day. We have good times in the truck.
Yeah.
I think there should be a sitcom that just focuses on a work truck.
You know what was similar? Not similar to that, I guess, but my father used to talk about it all the time. I've only seen a couple episodes. Taxi.
Oh, yeah.
With Danny DeVito. That was like a working class type show, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. With Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito, was that before or after One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I think that was before. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I think, was his first breakout movie role.
Danny DeVito's a great actor.
He looks like my dad. Or my dad looks like him. He's older. My dad looks exactly like Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Which is not good for me in my future.
Well, then you got to keep on top of your... you got to keep on top of yourself. Then.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
You just get lazier as you get older.
You'll be like your father, too. You're going to have soft hands.
You know what? My dad, he's healthy.
Yeah.
At his age,
he's in
I'll
shape
take it.
They're fairly in shape, yeah.
I mean, he's not... I'll take looking like my dad at his age. To be honest, I don't know if I'm going to be around by the time I'm his age because I smoke cigarettes. It really is the worst thing. It is the worst thing.
Yeah, but I've tried to tell you because when I worked with your brother, I told you that.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there.
Why?
I don't like where the power shift is going right now.
What
with
do you
you
mean?
Trying to tell me things.
Tell you things. Oh, he doesn't like that I talk to him about the cigarettes that I don't like.
All right, you tried to tell me what?
I told you that when I worked with your brother smoked American Spirits, which I didn't mind the smell.
They're double the price.
Okay, well they smell better.
It's still not a solution.
Like they're not as aggressive.
It's still not a solution.
It's organic, right?
Just quitting altogether is the way to go.
You're not going to do that, so I'd rather be in the truck with somebody who smokes a decent cigarette.
The longest I quit smoking was like 20 days. And it was when Crackhead Mike used to live over here. So he used to live behind the shop and he used to bum cigarettes for me because he was always broke.
Yeah, I remember.
And then I had gotten the flu and I quit after that. No, I think this is sure.
Whenever you get the flu,
whenever I get sick, I try to quit. But this was the longest. And I quit for 20 days. And toward the end of me quitting, he'd be like, you look like you need a cigarette. Come on, let me give you a cigarette. And I'm like, oh, Mike, what are you doing to me? And then the first couple times I was like, nah. And then I was like, all right, give me one. All right, give me another one. And then before that, I had 2 a day. And it was over. And that was it. And I bought a pack. I think he gave me like 2 or 3 in a day. And then the next day, I just bought a pack and it was over.
What happened to Crackhead Mike?
I mean, just life got him.
Yeah.
He ended up relocating.
Yeah. I remember him for a little while early on.
It was a sad situation. I mean, listen, he's gone now. His dad's gone. So I could kind of freely talk about it, but he would have mental breakdowns in that house. And he would part-time work with us every once in a while. And this was before, I know he was here around when you were here, but
in the beginning, yeah.
I used to take him out when we needed him, when I needed an extra hand.
I remember you took him out one time with me where he was digging a hole and he would dig and just and we needed a trench dug and he would just dig straight down. He had so much energy. He was the skinniest guy.
Yeah, but by noon he was done.
By noon he was done, but by noon he had dug a hole to China.
It was a sad situation with that guy. I mean, his father committed suicide right on their front lawn, right in front of him. And the bank over here, it used to be a TD bank. The drive-through camera caught the whole thing.
Jeez.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. But he would go through emotional breakdowns and I wouldn't see him for a couple of days. So I go and knocked on the door. One day I knock on the door and he's sitting there on his couch and he's crying. And I go in and I go, Mike, and I go walk into the kitchen. I'm petting the cats and he's crying. He's like, Phil, I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And I notice his shotgun sitting on right below the coffee table. And I'm like, Mike, tell me what's going on. Like, how can I help you? How can I help you? He starts freaking out. I'm like, dude, I'm not leaving until like you tell me what's
unloaded.
going on. Huh?
Until that thing is unloaded.
I tried not to make a point of the gun under there, but he started freaking out. He said, just get out of here. I don't want to talk to him. I'm like, Mike, I'm concerned for you. Picks up the shotgun, aims it at me. I don't know if it's loaded or not. First and hopefully only time I ever get a gun. And I know my face just went white, but I didn't want to show anything because I knew he wasn't going to do it. I knew he was just in a tough spot, and he cared. He wouldn't have done it. But it was one of the most terrifying moments of my life. I can't. Okay, so here's another freaky thing that happened to me out in Ohio. They have backyard zoos all over the place. People who have hundreds of acres, and you've been to the exotic animals auction out there.
Yeah, they're
remember
very
how
cool.
crazy that was?
Very, very cool. You see, I didn't realize how big a porcupine was until I went to one of those exotic
porcupines for sale, peacocks, gray wolves, all different kinds of, just at an auction at this massive farm. So there's backyard farms all over Ohio. So we went to see this one. There's maybe
Backyard
3 or 4
zoos.
backyard zoos. We went to see this one that was maybe 3 or 4 miles from my grandparents' house when they used to live in Orville. And we're walking around. He has dozens of monkeys. He has a giraffe, black bears,
No,
and he has
I wouldn't do
a
that.
tiger and a lion, each in separate cages. And I walk up, and the tiger is like rubbing his head against the fence. We're sitting here scratching a full-size tiger behind the ear.
Nope.
And he's like purring like a cat.
Yeah.
But it's
Not for me.
it was insane. And then I start walking around the tiger's cage, and the lion is sitting up on his rock. And as I'm walking around, I'm making eye contact with him, not even thinking, but he wouldn't like stop looking at me, so I just kept looking at him. And we walked around to the front of the cage, and I kind of walk up to like kind of, check him out and check out his habitat. He jumps off the rock, runs right at the fence, throws his paws on the fence right in front of me, and roars in my face. And I'll never forget the sound and the view. I could see right down his throat. And he didn't even give a full roar. That is horrifying.
Yeah,
That's terrifying.
It's first of all, it's not an animal that's supposed to be caged up. That's number one, and it's
The sound is just insane.
yeah, they're beautiful creatures, but at a distance.
So I don't know what to put in a worse spot. The whole situation with Mike was pretty scary. But
Yeah,
the lions
because you don't know what he's gonna do.
I mean, the lion was behind a fence.
I mean, we did call him Crackhead Mike.
Crackhead Mike.
So
And you know what? It was such a shame because he had such a good heart, but he just couldn't get rid of his demons. It was sad.
He went on his benders, yeah.
Yeah, he would go on 2-3 benders. One time he knocked on the shop window. It was really, really late, tweaking out, begging for money. I was like, Mike, I can't. I got nothing for you. And he like flipped out. You don't care about recovery? I'm like, dude, what are you doing at 10 o'clock at night for your recovery? Nothing good. I'm not stupid. I mean, come on. You're going to go to rehab at 10 o'clock at night? What do you need money for? Anyway. When his father died, I remember it's the first time I met him. First, like, I started working for courts maybe 4 years after this when his father had killed himself. But my mom says, listen, I made this guy a bunch of food. You want to go bring it to him? He lives right behind the shop, and that's the first time I met him. And I gave him the food, and he just starts bawling.
The father or Mike?
Mike, his father had just died.
Oh.
So I hate seeing a grown man cry. It makes me cry. It does. It brings tears to
Like
my
those
eyes to see
videos
a grown.
those videos of the soldier returning
Not the
home.
coming home videos. No, those because
He cries when he sees his kid or something.
it's like it's just like when Jordan Peterson is talking about the state of men nowadays, and he starts crying. It makes me choke up a bit to see a grown man cry, to see a grown man moved emotionally.
I don't like it. Like my father cries a lot now in his later years.
Where do you have kids?
Yeah, I don't like it at all. That's what my mother said the first time. Ugh, I hate even doing this now. The first time she ever saw my father cry was when I was born, and he was like a baby. Like she could have.
Bawling?
She said, yeah. She said he could have. because he was in the military. He goes, he could have watched somebody get stabbed in front of him and not bat an eye before.
That's because his first son came out with red hair.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the
They
miracle.
both went, ugh. You know what my mother said? You know what my mother said? She used to say to her mother all the time, my grandmother, she said, if I ever have a baby with red hair, if I have a child with red hair, I'm leaving him at the hospital. That's how much she hated it. And then I came out and she just goes, I can't stick to that. I don't know how.
I love my little ginger boy.
Yeah.
When my sister was born, my sister's the youngest. It's me, my brother, then my sister. When my sister was born, the first thing my parents said, because they'd already been through 2, my sister comes out. She's crying her lungs off. They both look at each other like, look at the size of her mouth. She had like the biggest mouth. She came out crying at the top of her lungs. And that's the first thing they both said. So funny. But when you go through like 2, 3 kids, at that point, the last one, you're just like, whatever. All right.
Yeah.
But my sister, when she was growing up, she used to cry to the point of her she used to like make herself black out.
What? Well,
She used to cry so hard.
Yeah.
She used to cry so hard that she would lose breath and then fall over. Like when you let out a whale and then you don't take the breath after.
Kids are dumb.
I gotta show you this. I actually saw a video about it the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but like it's a common thing where babies will cry and they'll exhale all their air on the whale, but they won't breathe in because they're crying so hard.
That's why you're not supposed to console your baby when he's crying. Just let him pass out. Not only do we give plumbing advice, but we give parenting advice here too.
Heartless.
Just let your babies pass out.
I'm telling you, when you have kids, I can't wait for the day when you have your first child.
I'm cold as ice.
And all that I'm going to bust your chops relentlessly.
Nah.
Call you big wuss at every time.
It's not going to happen.
I can't wait to see the video of you bawling when your daughter's born.
That's not going to happen. I'm not going to have it. Having sisters makes me not want to have a daughter. I'm going to do one of those things where you can pick the baby. What kind of baby you have,
where you can build your own baby, like build a bear.
Your own baby.
You could do that. Pick the eye color, the sex, the hair color, everything.
They take your DNA and they just kind of mix it up.
That's how you know we're at the end of times, when you can do that, when you can scientifically do that. It's messed up. What a crazy time to be alive.
I'll tell you what, I don't want a ginger baby.
There's no way around it.
I know.
The odds of you as a ginger having a ginger kid is like 80%. You're a walking recessive gene.
Is it 80%?
Yeah, well, you're dominantly showing the recessive gene. Red hair is the recessive gene.
You're dominantly
every time.
gross. Is what he's saying. But I do I know you have some stuff that you want to talk about, but I don't.
Not really. I'm just just go.
I don't know if you want to talk about
just
going back to Mike. Drug use in the trades, because we try to hire guys, not in the trades. That's the wrong way to put it. It's a lot of guys that we've tried to hire, or that you've tried to hire, sorry, that we've brought in, and people that are in these trades do have a problem with that. I've noticed.
You know what it mostly is? It's pills nowadays.
Yeah. Well, it goes to like coal miners. The opioid epidemic hit, West Virginia, the middle of the country, very hard.
Well, you're getting deep.
No? Is this too deep?
Go ahead.
Is this no good? I mean, it affects the workforce. It affects the workforce. Absolutely. Because you try to find guys, and it's not that these guys are not talented that we get every once in a while, but they do have their issues.
There's you have to like. I don't want to have to compromise whether you're going to be reliable.
Yeah.
If you're a good worker. So at the pool place I used to work at, we had this one guy. He's a white dude that grew up in Patterson and has a Southern accent. Explain that to me.
Yeah, that's very rare. I don't know how
but he worked with me. For the first 3-4 years I worked at the pool place. And he had a cocaine problem. He would go on benders randomly in the week, But when he came to work, he was so good. Never had any callbacks.
Yeah.
Always could diagnose the problem. Banged out the work. Customers loved him. But he would go 4 days, just not show up.
Some guys are like that. Some guys are like that with alcohol. Some guys are like that with weed, and some guys are like that with other drugs too. But I think that's the rare case. I think most of it affects people in a bad way.
Absolutely.
So, but what I'm saying is most guys are not like that guy that was at the pool company.
Oh, no. But you always have to be careful. Listen, if someone has a pill problem, and not to be insensitive, but I've put out ads like
You have to figure that
no
out
pill
first.
heads. No pill. We drug test for opioids. Opioids, like, dude, I'm telling you, it is truly an epidemic. Opioids are freaking horrible.
Well, it's killed more people. It's killed more people in this country than any war we've ever had, right?
I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I know the numbers are insane, especially in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And it is a big problem for the trades because those guys have exhausted all their angles. They have nowhere else to go, and they need...
It hits harder in the trades because I mean, this is from what I've read. I'm definitely not an expert in this, but the way that it starts is obviously, when you're in the trades, you get injured more, you're more sore, whatever it is, whatever you get. Let's say you get an injury, then you go to the doctor, you get painkillers, and then once that runs out for somebody, then they move on to, the cheaper option or the option that they can afford, which it's heroin.
I've had a lot of friends that went down that road.
Yeah, you're more familiar with that than I am, and I don't have that.
It is tough for the trades because, you want to help guys help make their lives better. I mean, that's why I'm more prone to want to hire someone who's green, because I want to train them up with the right habits and bring them up the right way. And
we want to start your drug habit.
we want to give you a reason.
We want to give you the reason to have a drug habit. We'll hurt your knees for you.
No. Do you want to?
Then you're under our control, Arthur.
I want to get a green guy in here because you can train him that way. But it's a huge. First of all, opioids are hitting the youth really bad, and you have to screen your employees. But whatever. We spent a lot of time on that. There's not much you can do. I mean, you can't. It's a huge predicament. This country's in an epidemic right now, and most of them are coming to us for jobs.
You look very stressed right now talking about this.
Dude, it's a huge problem, and I've seen a lot of I've lost a lot of friends to it.
I did want to bring it up because you've told me stuff about it, and like I said, I'm not super familiar with I don't have friends that are big into that.
That's good.
You told me that you've had friends and you've had personal stories, but I've noticed it with guys that I've seen in this workforce. Plumbers, roofers, contractors, you see it.
I remember
and I bring it up because I want people to be aware that I think it's a problem that affects the trades more than any other working field.
Yeah.
I don't think, listen, you can take stuff like guys on Wall Street, they got big coke problems, but that's me making a generalization. I don't know because I don't work on Wall Street.
Well, that's the stereotype.
Yeah.
And it exists for a reason,
But this is a reality, is that, blue collar workers, they do a lot of them.
You got to pray for this nation.
Yeah.
Pray for the youth of this nation. I was thinking about this week, my grandma. So my family grew up Roman Catholic. Like now they're Christian.
Really?
But they grew all my aunts and uncles were born into Catholicism, into the Catholic Church. Italian, German, Catholic family. 7 children. You know what I mean? But my grandfather became a Christian in the field. And I don't know if I ever told you this, and if I did, I'm going to tell it again anyway. But my grandfather did not tell me this story. My grandma told me this story once. And she told me how my grandfather got saved. And it was a customer who he went to go do it. I can't remember the guy's name. He was at my grandfather's funeral. Like he ended up becoming great friends with my family after my grandfather accepted the Lord. But my grandfather had a severe alcohol problem. And there was a lot of problems growing up in that family. And he went to this new customer and he had to fix something stupid, simple, something that should have been in and out. And the whole time my grandfather's fixing it, he runs into a problem. And the guy is sitting behind him, watching him do the job, which we hate.
Annoying.
We despise.
Annoying. And then imagine somebody preaching.
Like, we don't
to
need a
you.
chaperone. But he sat behind my grandfather and just sat there and told him about the Lord. And my grandfather was getting so angry. But he was a customer. He couldn't so he tried to talk. He tried to go back at him and have a little debate. And he left annoyed. Next day, got a call back on that same job. He went back to fix it. The guy did the same thing, sat behind him and just talked about him to the Lord, to the Lord, to the Lord. And my grandfather got pissed this time. And he stormed out. Very next day after, call back on the same thing. Something so simple and stupid. And that third day, the guy he pulled up his stool and he sat behind him and started talking about the Lord, and something hit him during that job. And at the job, while my grandfather is working, he just starts crying, bawling.
It's because he came back for the third time on a fill valve.
He lost all his profits.
No.
Yeah, it had nothing to do. That's so funny.
Quartz plumbing from 1962 to 1967.
2 callbacks on a job that he was supposed to charge like $24.
Crumbled by a fill valve.
No, the third time something hit him, and he knelt down on his knees and he prayed with the guy. And the guy brought him to the Lord, prayed the prayer of salvation, brought him to the Lord on the job. And he told the guy, he's like, "Listen, I have a problem with alcohol. I don't know how to fix it because it's misery. People who when you're addicted to something like that, it's not enjoyable whatsoever. It's bondage when it gets to a certain point where it starts to rule your life. It's literal bondage." But he told the guy, and then they prayed over that. They prayed over that specific issue. So he went home, told my grandmother. She didn't believe him. And then she started talking more, and she's like, "I'm not leaving the Catholic Church. I was born and raised, everything through and through. I'm not leaving." So he had to convince my grandmother that they're leaving the Catholic Church. They're going to this Christian church. And previously, like I said, they had prayed over his alcohol problem. He goes to take a sip of beer and starts vomiting everywhere. Was physically unable to drink. Could not drink booze.
Was it skunked?
No, it wasn't. It was blessed. It was blessed Budweiser. He could not drink alcohol. And from that moment on, he couldn't have another drink. And he was a severe alcoholic. And then it kind of trickled through my family where, my dad talks about when they started going to Grace Church. I think it was Grace. All my family members got saved and went up and my dad said he went up to the pulpit, the altar 10 times. And then my dad really became the preacher of the family. You have to hear my dad speak.
I haven't heard your dad preach, but I've heard him speak about,
He, and that's how it flooded through my family.
Yeah, he's a very smart guy. And not to toot your horn, but it's rubbed off on you.
I would hope so.
He doesn't know how to take that compliment.
No, I don't. I don't know how to take compliments, period. But no, it's
like when we're working together and you're like, "Wow, that was a nice job, Max."
But I was thinking about this, and all the times I've heard stories and all the really hard times that Quartz has gone through. That Quartz has, how are we going to pay bills? You've heard Paul talk about around 2008 when 2008 crashed, and you're only doing 25% of what you were doing before. Struggling, the phone is not ringing. There was a point where my uncle said that they were sitting in the office and the phone wasn't ringing, and they had people. They had my grandma call the business number and make sure that the phones are working because they just weren't ringing. But we have been here this whole time with the same phone number, the same name, the same business number, all that. And it really is solely because of the grace of the Lord. There's no other explanation to the things that this business has gone through, and the fact that we're still up and running and flourishing. I have to give credit to the Lord. Paul has to give credit to the Lord. My grandfather had to give credit to the Lord because there's no other explanation for it. And it's a beautiful thing to step back and recognize that, well, we really have no power where this business is going to go. We think we have control. We can try to do the right things and make sure we're advertising and make sure we're billing correctly and make sure we're doing our numbers. But when it comes down to it, look what happened with COVID. Let's say another COVID happens and they say there are no, what was the term for workers? Essential workers. We have to shut down all businesses. This one's really bad. That could rip through, a hurricane could rip through anything, like just.
Well, we couldn't. The essential worker thing is kind of annoying.
I know it is.
But
I know that
you can't stop people from fixing their. Like, we got busier.
That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is the fact that this company really is fragile. Everyone's company is fragile. Like, it can teeter over in a month and be done. So, as someone who's been born in a Christian family and was influenced with that, I have to remember to give thanks to the Lord and also to trust the Lord to do what he's going to do. I don't think that there's any reason why he would have brought us through 65 years just to say, okay, well, I'm done taking care of you guys now. Like, you see me get stressed. You see me get stressed when we're a little slow. You see me get stressed when we can't catch up, or like jobs are coming. You see me get stressed.
You start to hit me more.
You can see the mood change, and it's because I'm not putting this on the Lord's shoulders. It's so obvious when I'm not doing that. And to be honest,
I also think you need a vacation every once in a while.
Everyone does. I mean, here's the thing about vacation. You go on vacation, you're getting phone calls during vacation, and you're stressing out. And then once you land, you get the phone call that, oh, that job that you were at, they're pouring water. So what do you get? So vacation, you're always thinking about work. And then you come back, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's what my father said. That's what my father, he doesn't like taking vacations too much.
It's the worst. Like coming back and like all hell has broken loose.
Yeah, you don't.
One of the old, we have an old Jewish customer in Englewood. He passed away now. Sweet man, just the sweetest, kindest man. But he said something about, he goes, this is how you'd run your business. When you're busy, you work and you work and you work. You work until the sun goes down. You work your butt off. Work. When it's busy, you suck up all that work. When it's slow, go on vacation. Don't even bother sitting at home, stressing out, wondering why the phone's not ringing, wondering why you're not making this money. Just go on vacation. Pack all the work in. Pack all the work in, save a bunch for a rainy day, and when it's slow, just get out. Turn your phone off, take 2 weeks off, and just go. And that's it. And then that balances out your stress a little bit from having to work all that time when it's super busy.
I agree.
So we're going to start doing that. But we'll look at this summer. I mean, July, this is super uncharacteristic for July for work to be pouring in. We're usually quiet.
Well, I don't think it hasn't been pouring in recently, but it comes in, and we've been taking jobs that we don't normally take, bigger jobs that take more days, Again, going back to the
I'd like to hope that it's because our podcast is so popular that people just want to call us. Yeah. That'll be the day. Oh, let's see. What else do we want to talk to? Court's flourishing because of the Lord. Ain't it the truth?
Is that what you wrote down?
Yeah. Well, I just do little notes, little notesies. I downloaded a little microphone where it's a widget where I just have to press a button and it'll automatically record. So I don't have to sit there and search. So if I think of something, I just pick up my phone and press a button and record audio so I don't lose the thought.
Siri does that already for me.
Yeah, I don't have Apple for some. I'm too old to learn another operating system. That's not happening. Now I got to learn Apple.
What an old man thing to say.
And why does
Now
it? Why do they have to
learn
reverse
Apple.
everything?
It's the easy. It's all the old people have Apple. It's the easiest one to learn.
First of all, I've used the internet since 1995. The X and the minimize button is on the right side. Apple puts it on the left. The way that you have to back out of a web page, the way you have to. What the heck is Safari? What is Safari? Like, what does it mean? I don't get it. Whose internet are you on?
I'm sending this to Apple.
Send it to Apple. I don't expect them to sponsor us anyway.
They're gonna appreciate our earnestness so much that they're gonna sponsor us. You know what? He's right. What is Safari?
We've reevaluated our entire business model off of this one rant.
Due to plum bums.
That's how you break out in a whole bunch of views and go viral.
You attack
The entire
one of the
Apple
biggest-
company has changed its business format due to these two little schmucks in their basement talking into microphones. Oh, here's an issue I have. I saw this the other day. I go down to get lunch down into this stupid little parking lot right at the end of River Edge. First of all, it's the worst parking lot ever
Which one?
with Total Wine.
Oh, yes.
To get in and out.
Yes.
God forbid you have to make a left.
Yeah.
So I pull in there. It's lunchtime, so it's already a nightmare. And what do I see? A group of tween girls, 5 or 6, in the middle of the road filming a TikTok, filming choreography. And I go to turn, and they see me, and they don't move out of the way right away.
Did you lay on the horn?
No, I didn't honk. I was more in shock. That's why I didn't honk. Plus, the horn doesn't really work in my truck. You have to hit a certain spot.
That's very shocking that you didn't lay on the horn. That's a you thing.
You have to push on southwest of the steering wheel in an upward position, and then it'll honk. But I sat there. I wasn't even angry. I was flabbergasted. Like, it's one. I don't care if you want to go to the park and film TikTok. These girls were in the middle of the parking lot where cars are driving 2 ways. And then they reluctantly get over. And then I pull away. And then they get right back in the middle. Like, where were your parents? Where is your mother?
At work. Not taking care of their kids.
That's a huge problem. That is becoming a huge problem. And here's the other problem. Do kids even have morality nowadays? Or does it all depend on how many thumbs up they get? And
We're getting deep, huh? Do kids even have morality?
I'm watching videos of these kids doing these pricktok. Pricktok. There you go. There's a name for it. Pricktok. TikTok videos playing pranks that are cruel.
Yeah, they're not even funny.
They're cruel to people.
Yeah, and TikTok, well, here's what TikTok does. I found this out, is that obviously it's a Chinese company, and in China, TikTok is not the same as here.
Yep.
They push...
The algorithms are all different.
Yeah, they push educational videos to their kids and their youth so that it's stuff that they want them to learn, and it's not this
It's all educational.
Video. Yeah,
it's a lot of educational, like, kids educational programs and stuff like that. You come here, what is it?
It's those stupid videos.
Bozos twerking in the Total Wine parking lot while you're trying to park to get a Jersey Mike sub. This is what we're going to do.
1 second, I just want to film this TikTok.
Oh gosh, now, like, thinking about it, I'm like so frustrated. But there, I was so floored and flabbergasted that I was like, wow, it's actually happening in front of me.
Yeah, I guess kids don't have. I'm not gonna talk about their morality because who am I? Just talk about their morality. But
We'll judge their morality off microphone.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a little break. There was the first segment of Plum Bums podcast. We're gonna take a little break.
Why are we gonna take a break, Phil?
We'll talk about why we're taking a break when we come back. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in a few. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm already recording. That's
Are you
so
recording?
annoying. I am. I'm recording now.
So let's talk about why we took our break.
Why did we take? Because I needed to freshen up my drink. So we've decided after a long day of work that we're going to, while we do the podcast, we're going to sip on a little mixed drink or whiskey or something.
Yeah, because
Just to loosen up.
earlier we liked to talk about, problems, addictions that people have, and
Yeah. I don't like, yeah, exactly. And my grandfather's drinking problem.
yeah, in honor of Rich.
Plus Max talks like he's got to stick up his ass when he's sober. So we gotta change that.
And you
Make it-
don't. You should see how smiley and
Whoa,
happy you
somebody
are.
got defensive.
You're so smiley, and so you're not usually like this. Very touchy and love.
Listen, I'm a happy
You're
drunk.
mushing Frankie over there. Who's you, Frankie?
So what are we drinking today? We're drinking Earl Grey gin.
You wanted to go with whiskey. I told you it was too hot for
Way
whiskey
too hot.
today.
Yeah, you're right, because this is good. So I don't have much over here at the shop to mix with, but we had raspberry iced tea,
Razzmatazz.
unprocessed honey, and Earl Grey dry gin, and it's delicious.
That's not Earl Grey, is it? That's Corgi.
Earl Grey gin.
Oh.
Corgi is the brand. It's good. I like it. You know why? Because it'll let us loosen up a little bit.
It'll let you loosen up a little bit.
Neither
right?
of us will have stick ups our butts.
I'm still-
sticks ups our butts, and then we can kind of talk freely and talk about the day. I mean, what else do we do? What else have we learned in the past couple days?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big one. Well, last week was 4th of July. That was a long weekend. I get
His
it.
birthday.
The 3-day week was the longest week of the year. I don't know what it was.
It was
It
very
went
long
on
and very slow. That's why.
Forever.
Because we came back and you're like, Wednesday became Monday. And it just takes you a little bit to get going.
No, there's no rhyme or reason why it should have felt that long. It's a 3-day week. You ever seen the? Did you watch The Simpsons growing up?
A little bit. I mean,
It's a
The Simpsons
scene-
have been on for what, 30 years?
There's a scene where he goes to detention and he's like staring at the clock, and he just wants to get out, and he does that like that moan that he does, and he's looking at the clock, and the second hand starts slowing down, stops, and then goes backwards. That's how last week felt. Never ending. Plus, it was 90 degrees. Have we talked about how much I hate working in the heat?
We talked about your weather stipulations.
Dude, the heat, and I think we talked about this before. Like, you know what the worst thing is? When it's blazing outside and you go to a customer's house who's enjoying their life with the windows open because they're not overly exerting their bodies. They're like, yeah, we're gonna let the breeze flow through. First of all, it's the surface of the sun breeze. It's a sun flare that's coming into your
Or
living
just
room.
fans where you're just blowing hot air.
And then, so you get to the house, and we're working. We're taking down walls. We're cutting down sheetrock, busting out cement to like put vents out dying. Like, please just turn on the air conditioning just a little bit, please.
You were gross last week. I saw you were
You know where my people are from? Scandinavia.
Scandinavia.
Absolutely. Icelandic Vikings. I traced my ancestry.
No, you didn't.
I did. So check this out.
Porch is Dutch.
Me and my grandfather is, but my mom's side is all.
Italian, you told me.
My dad's side is German and Italian. My grandfather's German. My grandmother's Italian.
Quartz is Dutch.
So you're right.
calling you out, boy.
Italian and Dutch. Italian and Dutch. Quartz is Dutch. But my mom's side. So you know how I got ancestry? How we got an ancestry? I went to go see. Your sister calls me one day. She goes, I have tickets to Anderson Cooper. You want to go? I'm like, all right. So we went.
Gross.
Yeah,
I would never.
It was so cheesy
Not for
and
free.
stupid.
I wouldn't
We went
go.
for because we're going to hang out in the city afterwards. So we go, and it was some ancestry special, and he gave everyone in the audience a free 1-year membership to Ancestry.com. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I sat on it for a couple weeks, and then I started getting into it. It's addictive because the way it works is you track records that they have, and they get most of their records from Mormons. Mormons keep really, really good records.
Really? How
And
do you get your records from Mormons?
They'll go to Mormon records to look up last names, and they'll file those, like the papers or register. I saw the registration card from one of my relatives who was in the Union side of the Civil War. I found out all my relatives fought for the Union side of the Civil War. You're terrible, dude. That's terrible. But you can see this. You can see the signatures and stuff. So I started going back, and with my grandfather, I get to him and his brother, and it just stops. I can't find anything.
I think the Mormons
Completely
just
stops.
know how to run a really good business.
The Mormons don't own Ancestry. Ancestry goes to the Mormons for the records.
They have to pay them.
Stop dwelling on this. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. So I found one line through my mom's side on my grandfather's side, shut. Used to be shot from Germany. Found out that through that one line went through this woman named Sarah Cunningham, which was one of the first settlers from Europe on one of the boats that came over here for the first pilgrims. She signed and has her name on stone in Virginia. I followed that line all the way back to where Scottish kings were marrying their daughters to Icelandic Vikings for like 200 years. Back in the year 900, and you follow that all the way back.
I'm calling fake news.
Well, here's the thing: it's probably not completely true, but people used to kind of back then put their ancestry against the lords of their land, so their background ended up being intertwined with that. And once you find a line that's royalty, you can trace it back forever because those records were kept like that. So I'm going with it. First of all, you look at me.
Yeah.
Do me and my brother not look like Icelandic Vikings?
They're big boys.
Fat Icelandic
They're
Vikings.
big boys, yeah.
Just Vikings
not
that have
fat.
a 7-Eleven down the road. So, I mean, it's not like I'm some like 5'9" little like Italian looking guy.
Whoa.
You're not 5'9". Nice try.
In
He's not
in these
5'9".
boots, I am.
On these big blocks of wood,
On these
I'm
big boy
as high as
boots
you
I
want to
am.
be. No, I thought that was cool. And when you get Ancestry,
Do you have to send the swab in?
no, that wasn't around when I got the membership. That's 23andMe. Don't ever do that.
Something
by the
about
way.
that I don't trust.
You shouldn't. You know why? They'll keep the DNA on record. They keep your DNA on record.
My mother did that, and she found her side of the family, and she traced it back to Plymouth Rock. Actually, her side of the family was here early on. She's actually from Plymouth.
I call fake news.
Okay. Okay.
How does it feel?
It wasn't that important.
How does
to
it
me.
feel? How does
wasn't
it
that
feel when you're
important.
talking about your family history and I just shoot it down like
My
that?
family history goes as far as I understand from my parents. Like that's where it stops. My grandparents, I only have one remaining grandparent left, and she doesn't care about any of that stuff. You know, I love history, but my family history, it's probably got to be so boring.
Why? You're Romanian. Are you kidding me? The
Gypsies.
history out there?
Yeah. The thieves.
Listen, Eastern European history is insane.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's some.
There's two people in those parts of Europe that can trace their they can trace their ancestry back to. You can trace it back to Genghis Khan. Most people can trace their ancestry
Right.
back to Genghis Khan and Vlad the Impaler. The two of them conquered such large parts of the world that there's a ton of people that can trace their ancestry back to those two.
I knew Genghis Khan. I didn't know Vlad the Impaler. I thought he was known for killing people, not creating people.
Well, he was known for the cruelty in which he killed the cruel ways in which he killed people.
Dude, here's something that every business owner should pay attention to. And
On that note, speaking of Vlad the Impaler, Impale your prices.
Here's a completely unrelated topic that I'll try with all my might to tie into. No, I was thinking about this. So since we started doing this podcast, I kind of lay in bed and toss around ideas and kind of figure out like where we've
Keeps you
been,
up
where
at
we come
night.
from. It does. Like the worst thing you can do before you go to bed is think. But this was a hard lesson for me to learn, and Paul used to tell me all the time. The customer does not run the job. You're the professional. You run the job. And I never understood, like, it's a great thing to say. It sounds good. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. But I never understood the gravitas of that statement until you step back, like a renovation we've done. This was a couple years ago. We go and do this renovation. Homeowner wants to play project manager.
Yeah.
I still haven't learned that lesson. No. But she wants to play. Well, okay, so who's going to be running this job? Who's going to be doing the schedule? Oh, I'm going to take care of it. Even if you are a project manager, you cannot manage your own home because you're compromised.
You're also those people are trying to live in that house at the same time. A lot of people don't leave the house.
She's not scheduling to make the job go smoothly for all the contractors. She's scheduling because she wants her kitchen. And so what she'll do is she'll schedule a whole bunch of people on top of each other. I drove past that house the other day in Leonia. It's beautiful. So
I started working at the tail end of that Leonia job.
Yeah.
I remember.
She tried to set you up with one of her like daughter's friends or something, right? You walked in her like niece or something, and then you went in there. She was going to introduce you, but then you took off your boots to go work on the toilet. And she's like, never mind. You left like fiery footprints down the hall. Hey, I mean, listen, we work hard for the money.
We get stinky
in these boots. Anyway, yeah, so customers running the job automatically should be a red flag when they say, "Well, I'm going to be the project manager. I'm scheduling everything." Your whole job is compromised because your desire is to get in and out as fast as possible. And the contractors get screwed. We've had to walk off the job so many times because there have been so many contractors packed into this little kitchen. We can't work. And she didn't turn on the AC in the summer either, which is a huge problem. But that's something you're going to have to walk in and kind of sense when you're talking to the customer to sell a job. You have to kind of use your spidey sense to be like, something's telling me about this job, but it's just not going to go very smooth. You know what I mean?
Could say that about every job almost.
You all right there?
No.
Dude, your hair is out of control. It's the longest I've ever seen it.
All right, let's do this. Let's talk about a subject that we've talked about before. I'm going to take you off subject.
Fine.
What your facial hair says about you as a tradesman.
Are you saying this because I just shaved my beard over this weekend?
Yeah, and you got no chin. You look like Bob's Burgers.
That's so messed up. You're such a little twerp, and it really bothers me. How you just come in with these snarky comments like we need you here or something.
Wait, hold on.
And it's true, I don't have a chin. That's why I always have That's why I always have facial hair. Because of my stupid face. The stupid lower half of my face. I don't even know who in my family I got the lower half of this face from. My mom and both my parents have chins.
They're all chiseled.
Both of my parents have chins.
But you remember when we did that? We did that like mock podcast a long time ago about what your facial hair says about you as a trades worker. We were doing like, what does a mustache say? What does a goatee say? All that kind of stuff.
You know what? Fun. I gotta find that. I gotta find that video. It was timed perfectly. I edited it down with music and stuff. But what is the
we had everyone
handlebars?
We had everyone perfect. Like we got the electrician down perfect. The HVAC guy. We got the roofer.
Plumber facial hair. You know what? Plumbers actually usually don't have facial hair, or they have very light facial hair. Guys who have facial hair are roofers, and I guess just regular construction workers. Handlebars. You've been working on your own as a contractor for the last 25 years, and no one's going to tell you nothing.
Didn't you say your uncle? Because your uncle's clean shaved.
Always been clean shaven.
Yeah. But he looks like a man. I don't look like a man.
What does that even mean?
I mean that he cannot have facial hair and he looks like a man. Like people are gonna take his word for things. You know what I'm saying?
You're freaking weird.
If I walk into somebody's house clean shaven and I start giving plumbing information out, plumbing advice, and they're gonna be like, child.
I mean, look,
Outta here.
I look like I look like 8 years younger. First of all the gray's gone. Yes, it is. Why you got to be cruel?
Because I'm cold as ice.
The gray's mostly gone. Now it just looks like a blonde beard.
It's not.
All right, it's still there, but I still look 7 years younger. I already tell people I'm 38. I'm 41. Somebody asked me the other day, like, how old are you? Do you have kids? I'm like, I'm 38.
It's all right. You're still a good-looking guy. I just like to make fun.
All right. We're no more alcohol during the podcast. What were we talking about? Frankie?
What? Absolutely not. No, I was saying that it's your uncle said that a lot of people don't feel comfortable with a worker coming into their house if they
With
have
beards.
facial hair.
Yeah.
Like
It's
beards and stuff
it's
like
like an
that.
advertising statistic. Like a general, like when you survey people, they're more likely to go with a clean-shaven guy who's representing a contracting company than a beard. Because a beard, I guess, is intimidating. But I've never had any problems with
It might be intimidating. It might be intimidating, or it might just. I don't know. It's like what we say about first impressions. It doesn't. Maybe it's not clean for people. You know.
Well, the one lady goes.
Except-
We had that one lady I walked in there. It was our 10th job there. We've been working here for a while. She walks in. She's like, "So why do you wear a beard?" I'm like, huh? I was like, I don't know. I have no chin. I didn't tell her that. No, but I was like, I don't know. I've always had facial hair. Like as soon as I was growing, I've always had a beard. She's like, you look like those crazy guys on TV. Those crazy white guys from the South on TV. I'm like, well, I was
am
born
one
and
of those
raised in New
crazy
Jersey. I was born and raised up here. So, but what do you mean? What do you mean? What does that mean?
I don't-
Facial hair just as a turnoff to people because it's intimidating.
I don't know, your appearance, like the mullet's coming back. You know,
I'm a huge fan of that.
I know you're a
I'm
huge
sorry.
fan of it. I don't know. It just screams moron
I have friends.
to me.
I have friends out in like South Dakota and stuff who rock mullets, and it is, you know, the one guy.
I know.
I can't picture him in any other haircut. And he has women throwing themselves in it. This guy is grossly obese with a mullet and
He
a big
doesn't
beard.
have women throwing themselves at him. There's no way.
Women loved him. What movie?
I don't know.
Austin Powers when they're talking about Pavarotti.
Yeah.
Employees. Oh, here we go. This is what I wanted to talk about when I'm sitting in my room, not just thinking, but also scrolling through YouTube Reels, which is
Okay.
which is the worst thing you can do is to be on your phone before you go to bed. Because they're like 30, 40 seconds, but you just sit there scrolling, and after a while, an hour and a half has passed. But I found this welding channel, and he just basically films his students welding, and then he'll walk up to them, he'll stop them from welding. He goes, "Tell me what you're worth on this job, on this little job you just did. Tell me what you want to make." And they'll shout out a number like, "I think I'm worth this," and then he'll correct them and he'll tell them what they're actually worth. But I think that is so good for employers to do for their employees, because it'll put it into perspective. How much do you think you should make? You personally.
Are you asking?
I'm asking you.
what I make now.
What do you think you're worth?
What I make
What
now.
you make now? I agree.
Yeah, I've been here. I've been here for 5-6 years, and you know, you put your time and your work into. When I came on, I knew close to nothing.
All right, let me ask you this. When you first came on, what did you think you should be making? And pretend that Paul's not listening to this. He won't hold this against you. You could be honest.
I would probably say, what is it, 17, 18 bucks an hour?
I think you started at 15.
Yeah. Which at that time was minimum wage, right? I think you should be making, what is it? Is it now $16, $17 in New
I
Jersey?
think it's still 15.
Is it?
Well, I don't know. Of the minimum wage?
Yeah.
I have no idea, to be
I
honest.
think we talked about, did we talk about this last podcast? I can't remember if we talked about the guy that I spoke to at Ace.
Yes, we did talk about that.
Yeah. So I know that there's a time period that you have to work and you have to do the work that your boss doesn't want to do, that you don't really want to do, but you're learning a valuable skill. And I was
Exactly.
willing to learn that
That you
valuable
can
skill.
build upon.
And it was interesting for me because I've already talked about this though. I wanted to do something different, but when I came to this job, I started enjoying it. I like work.
You told me you wanted to get into plumbing because you were in the shower.
No. That's not what it was.
Well, that's what you told me.
I didn't.
So you lied to me.
I lied to you.
So you lied to me when you first came to kiss my butt.
No. When we first talked, I wanted to be an auto mechanic, and then I wanted to get into electrical. And I didn't know anybody in those trades.
You said what I'm about to say,
No.
or you wouldn't cut me off. You know exactly.
No.
You go, okay.
No.
This is what you told me. I didn't make this up. You said you were in the shower one day.
No, don't.
And you were looking at the shower, and it was coming out hot water, and you were amazed, like in modern plumbing, that you can be upstairs taking a hot shower. How all that gets to you.
I started to enjoy this work after a little bit of work in this trade, and
that was a small window.
I forgot about plumbing, electrical.
Electrical's a lot cleaner, I'll tell you that. Sometimes I look at those guys envious. Electricians don't have beards at all.
Yeah, clean shaven.
Clean shaven, you're an electrician.
Yep.
Electricians, I've tried to take a couple electrical courses. There's so many little terms and stuff. Ohms, voltage.
Why'd you say that with a little bit of oomph to your ohms?
Ohms. Like you have voltage, you have ohms with your ohm meter. I don't know why I said it because it's a weird word. But you have all that stuff, and then this thing is measured at this. I don't know if I'm incapable of understanding it or I just haven't put enough time in, but I still don't get it.
Well, we do a little bit of electrical.
I understand this. Yeah, we do low voltage, but it's just
anything
you're
from
completing
120
a loop
down.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, you go to school, you learn that kind of stuff. But plumbing to me just seems not easier, but it makes more sense to me. But also, the pool company set me up to do plumbing. That's all I did was plumbing anyway. So it was an easy transition for me. I mean, I told Paul, so when I first came here, Paul didn't take me on right away. For 2 months, I worked with our sister company in Hackensack on this huge job in Jersey City, this big commercial job. And I didn't look, he said, I left the pool place. He goes, okay, go do plumbing with these guys. I didn't know anything, but I caught on really, really quick to the point. And this could be because every other person that working there was just a moron. But the guy who was running the job had made me, in a couple weeks, like making calls and stuff on certain floors. I actually think, like now looking back, who I was working with, like they were just bunch of dopes anyway. Like they were all young kids. They just put hands out there on that job, and the poor guy who was running the job he just had messes to work with all the time. Like he quit after that, I think. But that was all through winter. And that was when winters were freaking cold. We haven't had a cold winter in like 3-4 years. But the wind.
Well, you never worked in the winter. You as a pool guy, you said you should take 2 months off.
When I was in service, I didn't work for the winter, but when I got into construction the last 3-4 years, we would build the pools in the winter. So they would have them for the spring. And that sucks. I mean, everything about putting in a pool, first of all, cement needs heat to cure. So let me ask you, how do you think when you pour a pool in February, concrete, how do you cure that concrete?
Heat gun. Just a heat gun. Walking around with a
What we had to do after, when we were done working every day, while the concrete on the pool was curing, you have to build a massive tent around the pool
with heat lamps and
then you put 2x4s across the pool and you hang electric heaters all around the pool to try to maintain heat in there enough for it to cure enough where it won't break apart in the spring. Pool, you know what? Now that pools is 1,000 times worse.
Than what?
Plumbing. Pools is not horrible, and I worked for a good company. I really loved the guys I worked with. I worked there for like 14 years. I've never done anything.
We've gone back there a couple times to ask them.
I have a good relationship with those guys, but the work is grueling. And most guys who, once they reach the peak of their plumbing career, pool career, they end up becoming plumbers anyway.
Really?
Yeah, the owner at the pool place. He says that's where he loses guys to plumbing. Kevin got into plumbing.
Oh, yeah.
Who else got into plumbing? It's just an easy transition. You're running gas lines. You're doing PVC. What else we got here?
You know what? I just want to bring this up real quickly. I remember.
Make it interesting.
Well, it is interesting. We had a customer.
Is it?
We had a customer. You used to tell me things about pools all the time that I didn't. Crazy stories that I didn't necessarily believe. You remember that you told me if you don't put a PRV on a pool.
No. A hydrostatic relief valve at the bottom of the pool.
A hydrostatic relief valve at the bottom of a pool, it will shoot out of the ground and rise up like a boat out of the ground. And
it took 5 years of you calling me a lying sack of shit until it happened in front of you.
I didn't say that.
No, but your eyes did. So I told him this story, and it's true. If you have to put a hydrostatic relief valve in the bottom of your pool shell because you really just have a big boat buried in the ground. That's all a pool is. So you have to put a hydrostatic relief valve in case your groundwater rises. It'll filter into the pool and balance out the water weight in the groundwater. And we did a big job at Englewood. They redid the pool. How many bathrooms are there? 6, 7 bathrooms?
Yeah, but we didn't do the pool. We didn't do anything.
We didn't do the pool. Yeah. But we did work on the house. We did the plumbing in the house.
And one day.
And a company was working on the pool. And they didn't pop the relief valve. And we go back. All the contractors go back the next week. And the pool is 4 feet out of the ground.
I couldn't.
The entire pool.
It's crazy to see when you see it in real life. And I go out there and
as soon as I see it, I turn to you and I go, "See, I told you. I told you I wasn't lying."
It is crazy. It's crazy how that can happen. And now what do you have to what do you do?
You have nothing. Your pool is done. There's nothing done? You can do.
You can't
absolutely because your pool is hard. Your pool is hard piped with the plumbing tied buried in the ground. As soon as you do that, you're cracking pipe.
So you have to redo the entire thing.
Done.
That's insane.
Yeah. Luckily, well, for the customer, not for the company, but the company's liable because they didn't take the proper precaution.
Wow.
They reshot that whole pool with concrete and they didn't put a relief valve in there.
That's tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or tens of thousands of dollars.
I mean, in a pool like that, that's probably $70,000 pool. Absolutely. Plus the equipment. Do those
companies have insurance for that?
Yeah.
For that type of thing? That covers that?
Well, you know what? I actually don't know.
Does it cover negligence like that?
Well, if we screw up on the job, like let's say we don't solder a pipe and it bursts in the middle of the night and it's definitely our fault, we do have some kind of insurance.
We have ways to prove that it's not our fault.
But it doesn't mean you get away scot-free. You're still paying.
That's what you think.
It's true. Dude, there's no way an insurance company is going to cover all of that crap. We have a customer in Englewood that a roofing company was working on their roof, and they were using an acetylene tank and a flame to set lead or something. Listen to this. This is crazy. They were working on the roof, and they sparked something underneath the roof. It didn't catch fire till like 3 hours later. It smoldered for 3 hours and then burst into flames after they were done.
How does that even happen? It's
sitting there smoldering underneath the roof, like against the wood.
This fancy word, smoldering.
Before a.
I'm just trying to put you on the spot. I get it.
It's like a campfire where it's just the coals are smoldering and then it'll catch something that'll ignite. But it was just smoldering along the insulation, and then I guess it hit like a breeze or some kind of oxygen and just ignited in the middle of it. And they lost their whole house. Me and Paul, that was my first job. Was Bernstein was I'll edit that name out. That was my first job after that house caught on fire with Paul. And we were there 11, 12 o'clock at night working on that house. Winterizing it, shutting it, yeah.
Why were you there at 11, 12 o'clock at night?
To be honest, I don't remember why we were there so late. There were 3 nights we were there late.
The house is done. You said the house went up.
I got to ask Paul about that. Like, why did you drag me out so late? I don't remember why, but I know we were there late. And that was rough. Everything, they couldn't take any of their belongings. Nothing. What else we got?
What's
What
so
do you want to
funny?
talk about?
What do I want to talk about?
Yeah, we'll end this segment
I'm the
with Max's
sidekick.
thoughts.
I'm the sidekick. I feed off of you.
Oh, you don't have thoughts of your own? Clearly.
No, it's just air. It's just
It's air and anger.
air, anger, that clapping monkey.
That angry clapping monkey from
The Grinch.
what are you doing? You're the worst.
I'm fidgety.
Here, I'm going to turn your mic off while you fix that.
It's fixed. It's fixed.
Oh, that vibration. That's going to send our fans. We're going to lose a lot
Fans.
of fans because of that.
You're talking about the fans that we have in the shop that are
I
blowing
think-
on us.
Well, we talked about a bunch of stuff, but I think that was a good episode. Let's not get into a dronious rant after this and just say and just end on a high note. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in and listening. We appreciate it. And now that we know that a couple people are actually listening,
Till next time.
even though it's you can count them on one hand.
You got drunk. I gotta get drunk for this thing.
We're gonna go drive to the park right now. All right, until next week. Bye.